And so the first thing today is this. Madness is not the same as different. The big thing to appreciate is it's not me that's mad, it's the world that's mad. And much of that madness, insanity, comes under this term normal. Insanities become normal. Because if you are born into a crazy place, and you grow up in the crazy place, and you become an adult and go through your life in the crazy place, and all you've ever known is the crazy place, then to you, that crazy is normal. And when someone comes outside and looks from outside the crazy place and says, hey, this is a crazy place, the people in the crazy place say, you're mad. This is normal. You're not normal. It's all just a perception of reality. This is a great quote to sum up what I'm saying. Birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. And that is the world we live in. And the other thing about being in a madhouse is that an idiot is a genius to another idiot, right? George Bush, I rest my case. That's what happens. From my perspective, this world worships as geniuses so many people who, from where I'm standing, are idiots. So today, we're going to take a journey through the madhouse and show why it's mad, because there's a reason for it, big time. So, the kind of symbolic or structure that I'm going to use today to go through this madhouse at multiple levels is the rabbit hole. And there is some truth to the fact that we become more mature to an extent. But one of the things we believe is, once upon a time, royal bloodlines used to rule us because they were royal bloodlines. And they were just royal dictators because of their genetics. Then we think we moved on to present time, and now we have people who are not connected to each other, and they are just benevolent, nice, lovely people who just want to do the best for all of us. We call them politicians and world leaders. This real world believes that democracy equals freedom. Being able to cast a vote every 4 or 5 years and then lose virtual complete control of what happens after that until next time you cast a vote is called freedom. Governments in the real world, they're good. Governments are good. Those that governments bomb, however, like this, they're evil. They're always evil because governments are good. Terrorism is bad. Terrorism is bad in the real world. Those that fight terrorism and do this, well, they're good, because they're fighting terrorism. Everything in the real world is black and white, them and us, bad guys and good guys. No shades of grey, everything black and white. It's insane. The world is mad, and once we realize that, it all starts to make sense. The worst thing we can do is try to make sense of the madness by thinking somehow it's us. Well, it must be me, because it looks mad to me, but everyone else thinks it's normal. No, it's not you! You're the same one! The world that's mad! Question. Why is it mad? Why is so much of the world an inversion of what it should be? This is a great quote from a guy called Michael Elner. Just look at us. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health. Lawyers destroy justice. Universities destroy knowledge. Governments destroy freedom. the major media destroy information, and religions destroy spirituality. And it's all apparently happening by chance. And I have this phrase, my dot is the only dot. And that is something that makes us so easy to manipulate and to delude. And while we're in this perception of my dot is the only dot, we have no peripheral vision. And it's in the peripheral vision where all this manipulation goes on. So life is not unconnected. At every level, it's fundamentally connected, despite what we're told. And to see this picture, we have to answer these questions, and we'll go through all of them as the day unfolds. Where are we being taken? How are we being taken there? Who is taking us there? And why are we being taken there? And let's start with where. Where is this world going? Where is it being systematically taken? It's to this. And you're going to see this symbol, this picture, many times through section 1. Because this is the cement that holds together a vast array of apparently completely unconnected subjects. The idea is to have all the control and all the wealth in the hands of, it says the 1%, actually it's less than 1% of the world population. To have the masses, including those today who think they're doing well and are okay financially, etc., at the bottom of the pyramid, in total dependency on the less than 1%. And in between the two, to hold that status quo, a merciless, vicious police military state actually, to impose the will of the few on everyone else. And when I talk about that picture, that what I call that Hunger Games society they want, I'm not talking about sometime over the rainbow, sometime in some distant future. I'm talking about the fact that it's unfolding before our eyes so blatantly now. 1% of the world population now own very close to 50% of the world's wealth. Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about. We're seeing around the world, not least in places like America and many parts of Europe, certainly including Britain, crushing austerity, where the few are getting richer and richer and the rest are getting poorer and poorer. And this is the governmental structure that they want in the Hunger Games society that I've just described. They want a world government dictating to that entire planet, controlling a world central bank, a world currency which is designed to be just electronic money, no cash. That's why we're hurtling towards the cashless society, as I warned about well back in the 1990s. A world army to impose the will of the world government. The basis of that is NATO. A microchip population, but I'll get to that in section 3 because it's much more than just that. And under that, a series of unions, the European Union being the most advanced by far. And the idea is to break up nation-states eventually into regions controlled by these super-states. And organizations like the World Health Organization, World Trade Organization are arms of that world government structure. And we have a de facto world government now unfolding before our eyes with the United Nations Security Council, and things like the European Union bureaucracy, and also the World Army unfolding through the continual expansion of NATO. So, world-changing events are not random. They're carefully planned long before. And for reasons I'll come to as the day unfolds, I'm talking way ahead of where we are, that they are planned. And, you know, what I'm talking about, because, you know, what was in my books in the 1990s about what the plan was is now being read on the television news day after day after day. And it's not because I'm a prophet, it's because there is a projected agenda for the world in the hidden. And if you are an insider of that agenda, you know what that is. If you are people like me, and lots of them now, thank goodness, who uncover what that agenda is, both you and the insiders can very, very accurately predict the future. Why? Because if there's an agenda for the world and nothing intervenes to stop it, then it will unfold. Now, I'm not going to read all this, you'll be absolutely delighted to know, but this is a guy I'm going to quote at specific points through this, particularly the first section. His name is Dr. Richard Day, he's long gone now, and he was a Rockefeller family insider. He was an executive of something called Planned Parenthood. It was actually started out life in the eugenics movement because the Rockefellers were into that. And in 1969, Dr. Richard Day stood up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in front of a group of pediatricians, and for some reason, no one seems to know, he said, ask people to not take notes and turn off recording equipment, because he was going to explain how the world was going to change and why, because he was going to do it. Oh, he was part of that was going to do it. And what he said that day in 1969, because one doctor, a guy called Lawrence Donegan, did take notes and did some interviews later about what Day had said that at that conference. And what he said, not just in theme, but in often fine detail, is exactly what has happened since. For example, the World Wide Web was supposed to have been invented through CERN in 1989. Richard Day described it in 1969. So this real world that people talk about is actually a world, completely a world of illusion. And the reason that people don't see it is because of what I call the program. This is a lifelong, incessant perception program which you are subjected to from cradle to grave to give you a perception of reality. The idea of the program is to get the population to see the world through the system's eyes, through the agenda's eyes. And this is a guy called Edward Bernays. He wrote a book in 1928 called Propaganda. And he described all those decades ago exactly what I'm talking about now. Edward Bernays is said to be the father of public relations, what we call PR or spin today. He said in that book, we are governed, our minds are moulded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. It's a perception deception. This is a list, a wish list, if you like, from the Frankfurt School of Social Engineering, formed in the Rothschild city of Frankfurt in the 1920s. This is the wish list. You might recognize it today, of how they wanted the world to change. The creation of racism offences, continual change to create confusion, the teaching of sex to children, huge immigration to destroy national identity, the promotion of excessive drinking, emptying churches, which means undermining any form of social cohesion and coming together, the legal system with bias against victims of crime, dependency on the state or state benefits, and then once that dependence is achieved, pulling them, control and dumbing down of the media, brackets achieved, encouraging the breakdown of the family. And that encouraging the breakdown of the family you find in almost every wish list of these social engineering organizations. So this is a life program, and this is how it goes. And perceptions being dictated from the earliest age by the state, called education. This is what school teaches children. Truth comes from authority. Intelligence is the ability to remember and repeat. Accurate memory and repetition are rewarded. Non-compliance is punished. Conform intellectually and socially. Programming prisons for your kids. That's what schools are, and that's what they're meant to be. And okay, they're not prisons. All right, they're not prisons. So, okay, so the kids can leave when they like, can they? Well, they can leave when the bell goes. Okay, yeah. And then what happens? Well, they do their own work. They can't even program kids through the day. They have to do bloody own work as well. Madness. And what happens when there's a school holiday and the children come out of school and now they've got a week off or 2 weeks off? What do? Yes! Freedom! Alright? So, what happens when a prisoner walks out of jail after a long sentence? Yes! Freedom! It's the same thing! Just meant you get home to sleep in the evening. And the other thing about education is it makes people largely know their place in society, know their place in the hierarchy of society. So private schools overwhelmingly provide the leaders and administrators of government, etc., the governors, and the state schools largely turn out the workers and the slaves, the governed. There is a crossover, but shockingly little. And what we I don't know if you have it in Czech Republic, but we have this phrase we hear all the time in Britain. We must use education to prepare children for the workplace. In other words, schools are not there to bring out the infinite unique potential and the gifts that innately are there. It's there to turn out cogs in a machine to serve the state for life. This is J.D. Rockefeller, who was the creator of the General Education Board in America in 1903. I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. Exactly. And this is a study at the College of William and Mary in Virginia in America. Between kindergarten and 12th grade. It was a vast study of many students across that education spectrum of time. And this is what they found. At the end of education, compared with what children were at the start, a massive decline of creativity, right side of the brain, as children have become less emotionally expressive, less energetic, less talkative and verbally expressive, less humorous, less imaginative, right side of the brain, less unconventional, right side of the brain, less lively and passionate, same, less perceptive, less apt to connect seemingly irrelevant things, right side of the brain, less synthesizing, same, and less likely to see things from a different angle. That is the goal of the program. So, be a good citizen, accept the program. And people will call you sane and sensible and clever. This is George Carlin, the great American comedian. Here's a bumper sticker I'd like to see. We are proud parents of a child who has resisted his teacher's attempts to break his spirit and bend him to the will of his corporate masters. That's the way out of this. Not falling for the program. You step out of the program with your opinion, you're mad, you're dangerous. Oh, okay, sorry. Then there's the media programming, which is taking its point of reference from how it reports everything from the program. And here we go. Good evening. Lies, half-truths, official line, complete bollocks. Good night. Now here's Bill with the weather. Day after day, these rolling news bulletins turn out this crap. How to control what people think. 1. Create or buy out major news agencies and TV channels. Massively achieved. Only publish stories that promote your agenda. Maintain debate within a strictly limited range of views and subjects. Focus on traumatic events to keep the people traumatized and in fear. And label anyone who exposes your system and manipulation as a conspiracy theorist. Now, the term conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorist came into widespread use in the 1960s when the CIA, the documents exist to prove it, contacted major media organizations in America and urged them to use the term conspiracy theorist and conspiracy theory to discredit those people that were questioning the Kennedy assassination, official story of which is ludicrous, and the assassination of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Bobby Kennedy. And all these years later, all these decades later, the media today is still slavishly using the same term every time someone like me is mentioned. So how can the media lie to you? Because it knows that most people won't check the facts, but will just accept them. So, these different inputs of the live program download, media, peer pressure, education, family, etc., create so many people's perceptions of reality for a lifetime. And this is where they want us. They want us in this narrow band of perception, this narrow band of the sense of the possible, and then they got us for life if we stay there. In other words, they sell us our dreams to keep us asleep. They even sell us our version of success. The way they do it is they put the carrot out there, and they get you to chase the carrot, and it's like sitting on a carousel horse. You think you're going to catch the one in front. You're not. There's no way. But we have to be persuaded we are going to catch the one in front, so we keep chasing these illusions that suit the state. Look, you have no time to eat. You're far too busy and successful. Oh, look. I'm so successful. I'm so successful. Oh, my God, I'm so successful. Ah. Are you going to come chill, have a beer, a bit of a lot? No, I'm far too successful. And this is a great American comedian. He died at the age of 32, 33. Bill Hicks. Very, very aware man. And he said this: except for pharmaceutical poison, there are essentially only 2 drugs that Western civilization tolerates. Caffeine from Monday to Friday to energize you enough to make you a productive member of society, and alcohol from Friday to Monday to keep you too stupid to figure out the prison that you're living in. And that's the idea. Number 1, the illusion of freedom and political choice. Democracy is seen as choice, but mostly it's not. It's a choice between masks on the same face, because almost all democracies are, in their base state, one-party states masquerading as choice. See the latest election in America for confirmation of that. Now, this global web goes into every country. It's more powerful in some countries than others, obviously. The idea is to be powerful in all of them. Influencing the political leadership and who wins and who doesn't. It's not always successful, but it is most of the time. And it's this network that's spewing out these choices that people vote for, or sometimes don't vote for, that become the world leaders. So you have different names and different parties, but overwhelmingly, not in every case, but in the vast majority of cases, they're answering to the same masters. They might not even know they are because of this compartmentalization. So this is the way it works. In most countries, sometimes it's three, but in most countries it's two parties that have any chance of forming a government. So you vote for party A and they get into government, and you don't like what they've done. So to get them out, you vote for party B and they get into power, and you don't like what they've done because they're doing the same as them. To get these out, you have to go back and vote for party A, and that's how it works, and it's called choice. I mean, I've seen some bizarre elections. This one going on in America now, beats them all. There's been a number of examples, right? What you've got is people, this is only one example, there's loads of examples. He's filming, right, through his phone. And he's filming her. But she's not in the picture, right? Because it's a setup. It's what they call a green screen. It's a projection. It's all a setup. Now, there's Bernie Sanders rallies. These were Clinton's rallies going for the nomination. Guess who won? And then there's Donald Trump, who's supposed to be an anti-establishment. He's surrounded himself with establishment men all his life. This is a man supported by chunks of the American alternative media, who said of Edward Snowden, the NSA whistleblower, this guy's a bad guy, and you know there's still a thing called execution. Yeah, he's got to be different, isn't he? And he says he promises a huge boost in military spending and a hike in the number of active troops. I mean, there'll be no one left in America who's not in uniform. Bloody hell. And then, of course, you've got both of them on their knees in servitude to Israel, which is just the land of Rothschild. And this is a great line from Mark Twain. If voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. We make them demand their own prison. The whole perception deception is a mind program. It's a psychological manipulation. It's all based on that. It has to be, because the number of people who are doing it are so small compared with the target population. They have to get the population to see the world their way, or it can't happen. And it's all based on fear. Fear comes with the reaction to the problem. Do something. When people are in a state of fear, they'll give their power away to people they think will protect them from what they fear. Now, here's a great example. This is a guy called Vincenzo Vinciguerra from Operation Gladio, a NATO Operation Gladio, which was covertly carrying out terrorist attacks, not least in Italy, to get the people to give their freedom away. He's still in jail for a terrorist attack, and this is what he said. You had to attack civilians, the people, women, children, innocent people, unknown people, far removed from any political gain. The reason was quite simple. They were supposed to force these people, the Italian public in this case, to turn to the state to ask for greater security. That is how problem reaction solution works. And here's Hermann Göring, famous Nazi. The people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them they are being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same in any country. And there's a name for this. They call it creative destruction. You destroy the status quo and society changes. You then destroy the status quo again and society changes even more. And that's what's going on all the time, being played out on the television news today. Nothing transforms society more than a war, whether it's a country or whether it's a world. Because once the war starts, wherever it's taking place is never ever the same again. Look at Syria, for instance. Look at Libya. Look at Iraq. And this is why this, or these, are the calling cards of the West. You know, the moral, freedom-loving leaders of the West who only want to bomb people to protect them from violence. You know, those people. And this is why there's always money for war. because war is good to push on the agenda for this Hunger Games society. The police state, as a result of war, is good to build this middle section of the police-military state. And austerity resulting from so much money being paid and spent on war is good to pull people into this dependency level of the pyramid. And what they've gone for is Orwell's endless war, and we call it the war on terror. When do you know a war on terror has finished? You don't. When do you know there's going to be another attack? You don't. So the war on terror is Orwell's endless war from 1984. The war on terror is a war on freedom. That's what it's there for. And it's been done for many reasons, but here's two main ones. One, to justify the invasions of countries. We must stop these tyrants. Well, go and bomb the White House then. And secondly, to justify the police state at home to protect us from terrorists. And again, it's all based on fear. In September 2000, an organization in America called the Project for the New American Century, those neocons behind the Republican Party, in fact, they're supporting Clinton now, not surprisingly, for president. People like Robert Kagan and William Kristol, the two co-founders, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, Doug Icke'a, and Richard Pearl. They were fundamentally the leaders of this Project for the New American Century. And in September 2000, they produced a document calling for the American government, American forces, to fight and decisively win multiple simultaneous major theatre wars. And they named the countries they wanted to regime change, September 2000. And among them were Iraq, Libya, Syria, Iran, North Korea, and China. A few months later, after that document was published, in January 2001, these people came to power with the Bush administration, either directly in the Pentagon and the White House, or in the background. And it's worth mentioning that this document in September 2000 said this. It said this process of transformation, i.e. all these regime changes and multiple theatre wars they wanted America to fight, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. 1 year to the month after that document was published, 9 months after this same group of people came to power with Bush, we had what Bush called at the time the Pearl Harbor of the 21st century, 9/11. And everything that has happened since, not least in the Middle East, has been triggered by this attack called 9/11. Now, this is General Wesley Clark. He was NATO's Supreme Allied Commander at one point. And he was interviewed in 2007 on a alternative TV program called Democracy Now! You can see it on the internet. And he said that days after 9/11, he went to the Pentagon, Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz, and then went down to meet a friend of his, a general in what they call the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that supposedly run the Pentagon but don't. And he said, this general said to him, we're going to invade Iraq. This is a few days after 9/11. We're going to invade Iraq. He said, well, what are we going to invade Iraq for? Are they involved in 9/11? He said, well, no, we don't think so, but you know, maybe we think we've got to do something, so we're going to invade someone, basically. And then he goes away and he comes back a few weeks later, by which time America is in Afghanistan, and he said to his friend, why haven't we invaded Iraq? I thought we were going to invade Iraq. And his friend said, the general, he said, it's worse than that, sir. And he picked up a piece of paper off the desk and said, I just had this down from Rumsfeld's office. We're going to invade 7 countries in 5 years. And what were some of those countries? Iraq, Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Iran, very countries on the list of the Project for the New American Century a few months before. And indeed, he mentioned the Project for the New American Century in this interview. He said they wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, and make it under our control. All these things happening in the Middle East, including Syria today, are not rebellions by the people, overwhelmingly, at all. They are manufactured. And now, as a result of 9/11, look at the countries that they are targeting or have invaded. All on the periphery or right in the center of that area called Eurasia that Brzezinski said America must control. 9/11 was a problem-reaction solution to justify all that's gone since. Now, the first quote from Dr. Richard Day in 1969. These are the words of Dr. Dunnigan, who took the notes. There was a discussion of terrorism. Terrorism would be widely used in Europe and in other parts of the world. Terrorism at that time was thought would not be necessary in the United States. It could become necessary if the United States did not move rapidly enough into accepting this new system, this new Hunger Games system. And as a result of 9/11, they start picking off the countries on the list of the Project for the New American Century. After Afghanistan, they were into Iraq. Now, this is why these two guys, indeed they're just puppets of the hidden hand, have been caught out monumentally lying over weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Why? Because Iraq was on the list, but they didn't have a good excuse to justify invading it. So they made one up. So, Iraq down, now Libya. Libya was on the list. Now note this, they're ticking off another one on that list, but it's not the Bush administration anymore, or Tony Blair. It's not Republicans and Labour Party in Britain. It's Obama, Democrat. It's David Cameron, Conservative Party, and the lady, Secretary of State. But they're ticking off the same list. Why? Because two presidents, any party, hidden hand, always in control. So they're following the hidden hand agenda. And so what they did was they funded, armed, and trained rebels to attack the Gaddafi government. And this is how it works. Rebels, proxy army for Britain and America, start shooting at Gaddafi government targets. Mainstream media, politicians, shh. Gaddafi government shoots back. He's killing his own people! That's how it works. So they then bomb the shit out of civilians in Libya to save them from violence. This is what they did to Sirte in Libya to save them from violence, and now it's an ISIS stronghold. Well done you. So, Libya down, now Syria. Now actually what happened with Syria is what they've done for Gaddafi, loads of those same people were shipped into Syria to do the same there. And keep that off. And it's still going on. And when you want to regime change country after country, if you keep invading them and invading them and invading them, people say, hold on a minute, what's going on? We're invading everybody. So what you do is you get it to look like it's a people's revolution, even though you've instigated it, so that they are removing the people you want removed without you appearing to be responsible for it. This is what the Arab Spring was all about. Arab Spring, freedom, freedom for Arabs. Well, that worked out well, didn't it? It was never meant to. And this guy, George Soros, this Rothschild bagman from Hungary originally, when he opens his mouth, the hidden hand is speaking. He has a series of organisations, not least the Open Society Foundations, who specialise in manipulating people's revolutions that aren't, although most of the people think they are, and also colour revolutions, like the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, like the Rose Revolution in Georgia, etc.